Hello, and welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to religion and politics. I'm here with a margarita and a lovely senorita called Christy Santiago.
Hola, ¿cómo está, Christy? No, español. No, speak Spanish. That's all I know. The bad words. Happy Friday, League.
Friday.
We have so much news going on in this world. You know that there is massive news when the day after the very first president in our nation's history gets indicted, that news has already kicked off. Like, we got other stuff we got to talk about. So I actually, yeah, you work on chewing that real quick. So I got messages, not just from people I talk to all the time, like Smitty, but he definitely was in there, and one of them asking if I was going to cover this or that. And then a lot of the overall messaging was, I'm sure whatever it's going to be is going to be very important. You're going to inform us, and it's going to be sad. I heard that over and over and over again, and I thought, oh, you're right. So I switched it up, and I do have two topics with happy endings tonight, but that's just because that's what the news brought me. Yes.
Yeah. And yes. That's our two middle topics. But before we get to the news, we also need to point out that we also have a man behind the curtain.
We do.
Our Lord and Savior, not Jehovah's Witness. So always want to make sure we give him credit where credit is due. It's under the sea, underneath the other side of the planet.
Upside down and in the future.
Yeah. So
but I've spoken
credit now and credit then. Thank you, Nacha.
That's right.
With this line. I don't know, I tried to make it rhyme.
Leah's Lord.
Leah's Lord. Under the sea.
Darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me. Might be a lesbian lobster, is all I'm saying.
Rock lobster.
I love rock lobster. I'm a Family Guy. Rock lobster.
Rock lobster. All right, so get to the news instead of cultural references. Actually, we just might have to add that to our opening tagline. Welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to religion and politics, and also throw out a whole bunch of cultural references. Now we can begin. So we have a problem of evil, with evil, of evil or with evil, and this is a bigger topic, so I want to take too long and not too long at the same time, because let me pull up my list for this list of topics that we didn't list. The Trump indictment. That's a thing, right? And most of you already know what's going on. He's the first U.S. former president to be indicted with a crime. And he probably won't be the last. But he'll be one again, probably. There's so many crimes he could be indicted with. This is kind of the bottom of the barrel. It's like campaign finance law. He just didn't record that he paid this money as hush money. If he had done that, then he wouldn't have broken this law. But since he broke that campaign finance law, well, that's a law. And
there's many different examples of him fudging, doctoring the paperwork to match the lie, and that therein is the crime, the cover-up. Oh, that's
I think it makes it 2 misdemeanors, which kind of makes it about a felony.
Except for there are 34 felonies. That's not how we didn't know if it. Yes, in New York, 2 misdemeanors can become a felony in New York. Yes. However, these are 34 felonies.
Oops.
Yeah, there's that. And if you want a breakdown, a legal breakdown from a civil rights attorney, I don't agree with everything from Midas Touch, but I do love how they are able to communicate law. It is so important. And to have, I mean, I can't imagine 100 years ago, imagine 200 years ago, imagine when this country was founded, having an outlet where the people could listen to, talk, communicate, and hear from the actual civil rights attorneys of that time, creating the laws we will live by. It's mind-blowing. I love it. I love that part of technology. And he does break down everything, from legalese into how people talk. And he's amazing at communicating that. And he was able to break down the indictment page by page, line by line, and explain what everything is, what each statute is, what each felony is, and how it's a felony. And I didn't feel burdened when I left that educational video. I felt like less, unburdened. I understood more. Yes, he is amazing. Yes. Legal Eagle.
Legal Eagle. Oh yeah, check him out.
I just like to say Legal Eagle. It's fun.
It's a good channel.
Yes, it is.
So that all said, the Trump indictment's going on, and they're gonna have to get like a grand jury all together and whatnot. Don't know how that's going to go, because we have to assume that there's going to be one person there who's like, I don't care about evidence. Hey, don't. I can imagine things going that way. It doesn't mean they will.
The grand jury voted to indict him.
Yeah.
There are multiple grand juries going on simultaneously around this country in different states, with Trump being the person at the top of that.
Atheist wants to know, also, welcome. Good to see you in here. Won't Trump be ineligible to run? Currently,
unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
He could run for presidency from a jail cell, just as Eugene Debs did 100 years ago.
Yeah. So he can still run. If that was
indicated, hold on, Brantley.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fucking hilarious. He is indicated 100%. That's what Trump, posted, that he was indicated.
That's funny. I didn't catch that.
So David Pakman, one of the, did you see the video? Okay, so he had a promotion that he was running, and the hashtag that you would add to get that promotion bonus was indicted or indicated, because sometimes you can spell it wrong. So they both got you into the 60% off of whatever it was. It was really funny.
That's hilarious.
He's big mad about being indicated too.
Oh yes, very much so. To the point that the DA who's indicting him, I can't say that they're threatening his daughter, but they're bringing his daughter into the.
That's the thing, is Trump doesn't have to say it. Think about January 6th. He didn't say go down and do this, bring flagpoles turned into weapons. He didn't have to. And this isn't the first time. He says something and now bomb threats go to children's hospitals. He says something and then this happens. And he can play the, I didn't say anything. And he didn't. He doesn't have to. And you know who else rules like that? Mob bosses. Yeah, not that he is, a mob boss, but yeah, think about the 80s in New York. Yeah, that's what I get from too.
It's like, that's mob bossy. That's very
mob bossy big time. And
just the people who really like me might have said something like that, and I agree with what they, but I don't endorse it.
Yeah, he's a hot mess. In New York in the 80s, if you wanted to do any kind of big business where you're building, you would have to work with the mob. And that's when, Donald Trump putting it out there and working with the mob. So, hi, Daddy. Everybody say hi to Pops. Pops is here.
Hey, Pops. Let me get back on where my little list was. Okay, so the Trump indictment. Okay, so why I brought this up at all is, one, it is big news, so I wanted to bring it up. I don't like to go deep into the biggest stories, because I feel like it's a waste of time for our show. But It is interesting. It is important. But the point that I wanted to point out was that the mega camp is big mad about him being indicated.
Big.
Big mad. And his son is pointing out how, like, basically how these people are evil. They're democratic communist scum who make Paul Potts look like a nice person. That said, we'll get back to that. There are states passing anti-abortion laws left and right now, and anti-travel laws. I can't remember, is it Oklahoma or Idaho or
Idaho.
Idaho. Thank you.
Where Brantley lives, it's all his fault.
Thanks, Brantley. We put you there for a reason. You had one job. We'll get back to that too.
Get it together, Brantley.
Get it together. So yeah, the anti-travel laws are super unconstitutional. Like, that's why we have the United States. Like, you're not supposed to restrict travel for, I can't think of any reason unless you're actually indicted with a crime. But this is before you're indicted with a crime. What the fuck is that? I don't think it would stand if it gets to the Supreme Court, but they're gonna try because they can. And I mean, Tennessee is doing something similar. They just did they out just one, or did they end up?
That's the last story tonight.
That's okay. So we'll get back to that as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Because the three of the Democratic lawmakers in Tennessee joined protesters. They outed at least one. I won't spoil it for Christy because I didn't update since this morning. It was two. It was two. Okay, two are out.
Yeah, the white one of the three got to stay.
But she was a woman, right?
Yes.
At least they're not sexist. Of course not. No, so, but again, I'm trying to just bring up a few different things here and just bird's eye view on, because all of these stories have something in common. All right, and let me see if there's any more. Oh, Fox News. If you care to remember, the Dominion voting, what do we call it? Not trial going on, lawsuit going on. They found all of this stuff in Discovery where all these text messages showing that the Fox News hosts and producers lie to their viewers relentlessly, because they are giving the news that their viewers want to hear. Donald Trump did win. He is basically the Messiah, the big good. He's been victimized since he came down the golden escalator shaft.
Oh, he's a victim, all right.
And all of this is just, or can be lumped together. We're going to say it can be, right? It's not just that it is. Here's the perspective of the day, is that in all of these, there's a clear narrative being written on either side of the aisle, right? On the conservative side, it is almost unanimous. Unanimous? Shit, I can't say that word.
Unanimous.
That this is the Democrats, who are mostly godless, let's face it. And they're basically communists. And they're trying to destroy our country and ruin our heroes. And then they're going to take our guns and kill our babies. They're already killing our babies before they come out. We have to defeat them. They are evil, right? It's a good versus evil narrative. And on the Democratic side, we'll say the more liberal, like the neo-lib side, and a lot on the leftist side too. Everyone's a fascist. Everyone's this, that, like everyone's a racist. Like it is overused, but I mean, there's a lot of fascists and racist on the conservative side. Let's be
Right.
honest. I mean,
Authoritarianism, big time.
oh, absolutely. I mean, the the only reason they're not more authoritarian on gun laws is because they want to overthrow the government. They want to overthrow their enemy, and they need guns to do that. Which
But
just
Matt,
means they're authoritarian. They're just against the government being authoritarian until
makes
they're in
my
complete control of the government. Please go. Yes.
makes my head want to explode. Do they not understand what a drone is? What a tank is? Like your guns are adorable compared to the United States military.
Right.
You
But
can't overthrow them.
I don't want to speak for anyone that I really don't have a solid opinion on. But I will liken it to I like to have hope myself that if the U.S. military was to turn on its citizens, the U.S. military wouldn't turn on its citizens, like not in full, right? I don't think we'd have a full out.
It would split. Some military would run from that. Some military
Yeah,
would, not do that. So,
right. So I feel like a lot of uh, conservatives would also hold that view to a point, right? Oh, well, our men and women would come home and defend us and just overthrow the government. Hey, so I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here, which is, I feel like my job to do, anyways, to give them as much as I can. But this is the problem of evil, right? And that's why it's tonight's main topic, is because that's our job. Christy and I's job is to point out where politics meet religion, and republicanism is a religion, right?
yeah.
These conservatives feel like God is on their side. Their guns. I mean, Charlie Kirk said it just this past week.
Oh.
That
I had to rewind it immediately. I couldn't believe he said that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Our Second Amendment and other God-given rights, including that in the God-given right. I'm like, that's not in the Bible. Actually, in Isaiah 14, verse 6, God gave people guns and said, these are your rights, don't let anyone take them away.
Mm.
Oh, my bad, that was Ezekiel. But when you have a divine good that is on your side, it creates a dualism. So what's the opposite of good? Of course, it's evil. It's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And as an atheist, who is also a moral relativist of sorts, I don't believe in evil. I believe that there are bad things that happen. We could even call them evil, but right, not as much as I might want to call something evil. I philosophically don't necessarily believe in a true evil, because positions and actions are difficult, right? Even when you shoot up a concert or a school, for some reason, most of those sick people justify it in their minds, right? Those people deserve it, right? It's not evil to them. It's evil to all of us. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it is more evil. I mean, as we all experience, more people experience it being evil than someone experiences it being justified or good.
Yeah.
It isn't pure, and it is relative. Um, and that doesn't excuse actions like that, or even bringing up the DA's um, daughter in your criminal case.
Right.
It doesn't help there, but this is the issue. Because we believe as a society in such goods and such evils, we justify everything that we do in those terms. So we can do whatever we need to because we're doing it for good. I mean, you hear, our audience has definitely heard things like from Brat Towel and of the like, and Ken Hovind. They'll lie for Jesus, right? They will tell a lie as long as it gets you closer to their version of God. That is fine by them. They're doing it for the greater good. And I mean, you don't really need to keep all the Ten Commandments and not lie to people who are non-Jews anyways, or who aren't really good people anyways, who aren't good, who aren't people, who are bad, who are evil. That's another part of the having the divine good behind you, is that when you have to destroy your enemy, like the Amalekites or the Democrats or teachers, they're evil.
Mm.
What should you do to evil if it exists? Christy, what do you feel like you should do to evil?
Banish it.
Banish it. Just banish it. What if it comes back? Are you Batman? Is this the Joker?
You're gonna have to learn some magic spells, I think.
Okay. But basically banish it.
Yeah. Educate. I mean, we can't control what other people do. We can only control how we react to it. And if evil presents itself,
right, and we can
put emotions aside and handle it as, unemotional as possible, which
we hope. This is why Christy's better than most of us. I always try, but I can never get her to say a more disgusting thing. Is when you come up against evil, you want to destroy it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But it's not what you should do. It's not what you ought to do, right? This is why police officers always seem hypocritical. Like, hey, do you know how fast you were going? You know how fast you were going to catch me, fucker? Like, dude, like, do you have to break the law to keep me from breaking the law? Like, when we're in warfare, how many innocent people do we have to kill a bad person or an evil person? And we always justify it like, well, we're fighting evil. It's always, if it's not said plain outright, it is strongly indicated.
Mm.
And this is the problem of evil. And many of you know that this is one of the reasons why I didn't lose my faith in Christianity or God, but it's one of the things that solidified it was the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I could never square that round hole either. Like, well, if it was all his, like every decision, well, then he's a fucking bastard.
Right. And even if it isn't all his decision, if he's not actually
Doing anything.
omniscient and whatever, right? Whether or not, so if he can, then that kind of makes him evil. If he can stop it and he doesn't, then that would make a God evil. But if he can't, then why call him God, right? I can't remember who first coined that phrase, but I'm just, no, I get that. Either way, I don't believe in that. I don't need to blame a God, not necessarily. People are messy. Humanity's messy. And I feel like it's worth pointing out because when you're a victim of these bad ideas, you become a villain. You become an aggressor because you feel like you're doing it for the good, the greater good, for God.
Right.
Especially if your definition of God is good or love, and you think that Hillary Clinton helps the other Democrats hunt down women through the woods and get their adrenaline up and then murder them and drink their blood along with a whole bunch of aborted fetuses, parts and bloods, whatever. Heard that recently this week, just so you know, someone fairly close to me believes all that. It's unnerving to think that someone believes a conspiracy theory that nutty, like Pizzagate, but also uses the vernacular of it's the evil Democrats, it's the evil communists, and people just aren't godly enough. They're not with God, and if we just go back to God's law, we wouldn't have these problems. And I'm just like, man, if we go right back to God's law, you're gonna have a whole bunch of different problems and some of the same ones. And if you're worried about child sacrifice, we could talk about that. We could talk about it. And speaking of that, we will go back to it because this is part of what I wanted to talk about tonight as well. This is just Max TED Talk. So I honestly believe that narratives like this are part of human nature. Not everyone does this. You'll always find people who don't, but you'll always find groups that do want to conquer evil. They only want to conquer evil because they believe they are good. And this goes back millennia.
Yeah.
Millennia.
Actually, while you were talking, I thought of a quote that it just stuck in my head immediately. No soldier ever went into battle without thinking that their God isn't on their side. Like, right. They think it doesn't matter. Both these armies are about to go in and they both believe without a shadow of a doubt that their God has sent them on this holy mission to better the world and take out the evil. And it's, I mean,
sure,
look at Russia and Ukraine. They both think the same thing.
Yeah. And I don't want to, I really try to always walk back the broad brushstrokes of like no soldier. Right. I feel like most, you know,
right.
Very close to all believe that way. And I want to go back to, I mentioned the Amalekites, right? When I hope I'm in the right time frame where Moses said, you go back and you kill the women and children and every young girl who's known a man, but the rest of the young girls who have never known a man, you may keep for yourselves. And the reason it's okay in the Bible, ask any Christian that you know, is because they were doing evil. They were evil. And when you're that evil, you're as good as an animal, which they're supposed to sacrifice to God. In certain circumstances, not every. But though that story's not true, it spoke to people who existed. And when you go back even further, I mean, look at the Crusades. You didn't believe right. You must be messing with divine good. Therefore, it is better for you to die. Go back much further. Any war that was fought in the Middle East, most of them were over gods, or they stomped on each other's gods, or sometimes borrowed them. But when you read texts like about Jerusalem, like what they were doing before the exilic period, and around the 6th century BCE, the people who are outside the city writing about what was happened, why Jerusalem has fallen, they say that, well, we fucked up. Our people fucked up. They weren't worshiping the correct gods. They were taking sex to not seriously enough, and brothels, right? And they weren't giving the correct sacrifices, and maybe they weren't worshiping the same gods, or maybe they were worshiping too many gods, right? They need to take down the Asherah poles, and it's always justified by what happens to them or what they do to others, as there's evil amongst them, and therefore it's justified. Therefore, God is justified in making sure that said actions happen. Like when, when Nebuchadnezzar comes to um, destroy Jerusalem, if I have the right time and place. I apologize, I don't have it all memorized. But the point stands. It's always justified by, well, they were doing evil. And I wanted to point that out because I've been more entrenched in the biblical texts and earlier, like being in the LEAH and ancient Sumer for the past 6 months to a year, something like that. I'm really, really enjoying it. But it's just again and again and again, you get these really basic stories of heroes and villains. And sometimes you see the villains, I'm sorry, the heroes become the villains, and a new hero arises. And when you're talking about gods, that happens often in the sense of first there's a father, then there's children, and then the father kills some of the children, but then one of them rise up and kill the father, and then he has children, and then he's worried about his children coming to kill him because he killed his father, so he goes to kill his children, and then one of his children kill him, and they take his wife, and then they again, and it goes down the family tree like that. And some of it is generational, I think, just literally, I think maybe there's something there to see as when you're the younger generation, maybe you look up to the children gods, the the children of the gods, and then when you are the older one, you want your deity, your Superman to be the one that takes over. You're sick of this old Clark Kent from the 30s. Now you want the one from the 70s because that's the one you grew up or on, right? I feel like if you look at these stories from the ancient Near East, you get a better understanding of the Bible, and you also get a better understanding, especially when you get to the Greco-Roman period, how we get comic books, these like straight heroes and villains, and these new revamps of old characters. Like, I don't know if many people know this, but Superman, I believe, came out in 1937 or 38. And I mean, he's coming up on 100 years old. Super cool. Super cool. And Batman came out, I think, in 39. They're not the same character. I mean, they are the same characters by name and also by origin, right? Superman was from the planet Krypton. He has superhuman strength and he can leap tall buildings in a single bound, except now he doesn't have to ever come down to fly. He is still stronger than a locomotive, but sometimes he moves entire planets. Batman is the peak of physical perfection. And his parents died, which made him pledge again, always fight crime and always do good and never kill. But now, I mean, he is the Dark Knight. He only comes out and he is vengeance. And these characters evolve over time. Now, I'm not just saying that each of these old God stories are just like comic books. I'm not necessarily saying that. what I am saying is I think if you don't already have this view as an atheist or as someone who's agnostic maybe or skeptic, I find it very helpful to sort through all of these different stories and all of the news that I go through, even to remember that I have a favorite version of Superman and the Flash and Green Lantern and Batman. Let me name some Marvel ones. X-Men. I like the ones from the 90s. I have favorites. And I idolize some of those characters and those stories. Like they bring me to tears sometimes. They get me ramped up. And I want to like go work out. I want to like go learn something new. And like they really motivate me to get off my ass and do something that feels like it has purpose.
No, they really do, guys. They light a fire under his ass.
Yeah, they do. They do.
It's very, very, yeah.
Thanks, Smitty. But the thing is, and this is the thing that really gets me, because my mother told me when I was younger, much younger,
My
she was
mom
worried that I would idolize maybe the Power Rangers or something too much, and like that's an idol, right? It's against the Ten Commandments outright.
That's right.
And when I became an atheist, I had to go on my own little morality search because I had already conquered the universe and understood how planets and stars are made. And like, oh shit. Well, if God's that small, maybe he doesn't exist. And now I look at the trees, the clouds, like S.J. Thompson does, but in the opposite light. I'm just like, this is just fucking physics and chemistry. How to explain everything else, right? So I had to go on a journey. Anyways, getting back to the comic books and good and evil, is the point is I derive meaning from this art. And I also look at the LEAH in the Bible, whichever 60 to 80 to 90 books that you want to derive from whatever you call the Bible. But I think what helps me, and if we could get more people to understand this as a humanist atheist group, that these are stories. Some of them have different views, just like comic books. Superman, or I'm sorry, no, sorry. Jimmy Olsen, Superman's pal, is a line of comic books where Superman's just the biggest asshole to his best friend. It's like, sorry, Jimmy, I don't think I can keep this gorilla from raping you. She looks like she really wants it. It's like shit like that. And you're like, who is this? This isn't my dude, right? But I don't believe it's true, right? I don't actually think that Rogue stole Miss Marvel's powers, and she's in her head. No, but I love the story.
Yeah.
And I love the concept of like this person struggles with her powers so much that like once she used them in the best way to get the most power, she got someone's like soul stuck in her head screaming at her.
Like Frost.
What you said, like Frost?
Yeah, Frost. She struggles with her powers a lot.
Oh yeah, Killer Frost. That was the
Killer. Well, yeah, and then she becomes the Frost.
Frost. Yes.
Because she gets rid of the evil.
Yes.
How funny. Yeah.
And then they're like sisters. But
yes,
it's cool.
There's a fine line between daytime soap operas and like novellas and comic books. very fine. Yes.
If anyone watched Smallville, the producers had a conversation. Hey, why don't we make a soap opera of Superman? And they're like, I don't know, we'll try it. And it fucking took off. And now, from that, they made the Arrowverse afterwards. That said, we love good and evil stories.
Yes.
Some of us, like myself, I love the complicated ones where you see gray area, the green area. When I was 4 years old, Jason David Frank became the Green Power Ranger,
Mm.
Tommy, and he was evil. He was supposed to be there for a short run, but people like me, tiny people, loved this Green Ranger. And it was just like, this is amazing. Like, he was supposed to be a bad guy. The Rangers, like, defeated him, and they brought him to their side. And now he's a good guy. And it's not just so simple that he's just a good guy. Every now and then it crops back up that, like, hey, you were a shit at one point. Like, yeah, I was, but I'm good now. I can fight this. And constantly, they always go back to this. He actually started eating. Just like Frost or Killer Frost, just like a bunch of characters. A lot of us really enjoy the struggle between good and evil when you learn that it's really not that fucking simple all the time. Sometimes we really do see good and evil, whether it's really there or not, but we're torn between them. Right? Like if you're a conservative or a Democrat, you likely think that one of those parties is pure evil or very close to it. But we forget that we're always through good and evil narratives. And we love it. We love it. And it's good to exercise your brain and read stories like that and be motivated by them. But we also have to realize that most people who are what we would consider evil justify it somehow. They think they're the good guys. And unless you find that area, unless you try to understand someone else's point of view, all you can do without understanding is destroy evil. And if you're destroying someone who thinks they're good, what are you to them? We have this talk all the time when we talk about war on this channel, which is in terrorism. Politically motivated acts of terror. People who think they're defeating evil and they're giving their life for it.
We have a lot of stochastic terrorism going on right now. A lot.
We do. And Smitty, I did see that trailer for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers once in a while, and I'm going to watch that.
Any chance to take any topic to the Power Rangers, Mac's gonna take it.
Yeah, it's true. Here, Smitty, I'll show you this. I got this in a loot crate.
Oh, damn. That's official. It says official on it. It's official.
Yeah, I'm a junior Power Ranger, so it says. I thought you'd appreciate that. Totally good. That said, I will recap with we love these narratives. We love these good versus evil narratives because they're really easy to get into. They're really easy to buy. So stop buying them. Stop buying them. Realize that there is gray area. You need understanding to solve problems. And if you can't make someone understand your point of view, do your damnedest to understand that.
Yeah.
And stop trying to sell you things. Yeah. You learn more by listening to idiots than they will with you screaming at them. It's as old as we can record. Black and white fallacies, good and evil narratives. And I think that we need to do a better job as a movement, right? And I know that the League of Extraordinary Atheists isn't necessarily a movement. We're just a group, right? But I want this group to be an understanding because we're atheists who are humanists, meaning we value human life So we shouldn't be looking for evil to destroy. We should be looking for people to try to understand. We can still hate those people. We can still say in some cases, maybe some of them probably should die, right? But that shouldn't be the rule. That should be exceptions. And we shouldn't have many. We ought to be better, because what we're fighting against, religious dogma and religion and politics and good and evil narratives, I mean, we don't want people thinking that we're actually drinking baby's blood, eating abortion penises, so on and so forth. What I would like to be known for as a group is just like, look, we don't believe in God, and we are good for goodness sake. We believe in human rights like healthcare, food, water, shelter, and just basic human rights to like live your fucking life, and your rights end where mine begin. And we try our best to understand everyone, so we don't fucking try to kill each other. There's four differences right there. So I wanted to throw that out there because I'm just seeing a lot at home and in the news and in stories right now. There's just too many good and evil narratives, and it's driving me insane. So I wanted to try to tie all of my little worlds together and sell it to you guys, wrapped it up. I hope it
That's
came
very
out
cool.
decent.
Yes.
I'm
No,
gonna finish my
I get
chocolate.
it's a massive, like, it's not even a topic, it's like an umbrella. So yeah, you did a great job. Great job. Now you have your ice cream.
Do you have anything to add or comment on any of that?
Well, I do see it every single day. I guess as I'm watching, I'm not picking that out because I'm not how you've been spending your hours on this topic. You see it as soon as I haven't been. So, but as soon as you say it, I'm like, God, I see it in this, I see it in that, I see it in this topic, I see it in, yeah. It's used. It's a easy, ancient way to control the masses for sure.
It is. And I mean, to say control, to put that agency in there, sometimes I absolutely see it. Sometimes I don't. Right? And it doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean I'm viewing it through the correct lens. Just like you said right now, I'm in this world, and this is the lens that I'm seeing clearly through right now. But sometimes it's just people are convinced, and they're not trying to control the masses, they're just trying to control the world.
Yeah.
Because they see it's gone awry, and it doesn't make any sense to them, and they see that the only thing that they can do to help is to conquer or to control. And I'm telling our audience that our solution to conquer this evil is to understand.
Right, to learn.
And not fall into that pit.
Right. What can we gain from learning about said issue of evil? It just sometimes it won't be a lot to learn. That will happen. But for the most part, nothing is black and white and on and off and good and bad. There's nuance and difficulties, and there's a lot to it. It's complicated. So
I can talk to family members and friends about what flat earthers believe, and I don't have to lie about them.
right. Yes.
I can talk
Being able to steel man another's position is very honorable.
Yeah,
it's an honest way to have a back and forth with an honest interlocutor.
Right, and you build rapport that way. People see it's honest, and they'll ask you about those topics because they don't think you're biased. They're just like, oh, that sounds. It doesn't sound like he hates them when he says it, right?
Yeah,
Maybe he's a safe person to talk to about it. Maybe I'm thinking about it, but he's making sense and he's not foaming at the mouth. Mouse. I'm not foaming at the mouse.
at the mouth. No, I
Sorry,
feel
go.
you. Oh, we're talking about the best villains are the ones who think that they're doing good. Pure evil villains are boring. I agree with you, Smitty. Give me a Silver Surfer any day. A Killer Frost any day.
I think Thanos in the comic books like 15, 20 years ago,
Yes.
super lame. Put him in the movie, he thinks he's a fucking hero. I'm like, man, one of my favorite villains. Also Ultron. He's like, look, I'm here to protect the world. Humans are fucking it up. I know how to protect the world.
Wow.
Fucking kill them all. Like, yeah, that's pretty fucking dark. You might be right, and I don't like that. so yeah, you're a scary bad guy.
Yes. No, he is pretty scary, and being that powerful, fictional or not, is quite terrifying if they're not benevolent. You know, even if they're just a little bit not benevolent, they can take out entire galaxies. Terrifying. Fiction, if you're gonna go fiction, go fiction. Go fantasy fiction all day. Okay, any last or you ready to move on to Wisconsin?
Oh yes.
Yes. Let's move on to progressives. Let me move on up. When a majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. All right, hold on, let me.
Are you okay? Did you sneeze?
I had to clear my throat, and I figured it would be better. Let me clear my
Next time you need to clear your throat and you don't want people to hear, ask me to clear my throat. You can mute and I go.
Yes, I like it.
Got it. Teamwork.
Yes. Again, you make me wish I had a 2 times in one night, Mac. You got a pretty mouth.
Thank you.
It's awkward, right? Yeah, you're welcome. You're
suck on that.
You're earning your lady wings. You'll be a bona fide. You'll have your official card, and then your official bona fide lady card.
Bonafide.
Yeah, bona fide. Yeah.
Bonerific.
We're totally mature. Us humanists, we're totally mature over here. I'm sorry. The word fart alone is hilarious. I don't think I'll ever reach an age of maturity where I won't crack up about farts. I just don't see that ever happening. So just wanted to share that with you guys. A little tidbit about me personally, getting to know me. All right. So liberal judge Janet Protasiewicz won a critical seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court on Tuesday, giving progressives their first majority on the court in 15 years, and a pathway to challenging the GOP's 15-year plus stranglehold, if you will, on the power in Wisconsin. Occurring on the same day as Donald Trump's arrest, well, so much of arrest that was, in Manhattan, Protasiewicz victory over former conservative Justice Daniel Kelly has huge state and national significance. A new progressive majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court could strike down the heavily gerrymandered maps that have locked in enormous Republican majorities in the legislature and a series of laws that have made it harder to vote for Wisconsinites. The court could also reverse unpopular laws like an 1849 abortion ban that the legislature refuses to appeal. A shift in the court removes the threat that conservatives could use their majority to overturn the 2024 election. Donald Trump's attempt to nullify Joe Biden's victory in the state failed by just one vote. And I want to let you know that when she won this, that night, there were tweets by these, and they're not even conservative, they're just straight up, authoritarian asshats saying, well, our path to 2024 is out now in Wisconsin. We're gonna have to think of a different way, because they were going to use that. Like, the race was the most expensive Supreme Court contest ever, topping $45 million, which triples the previous amount. Protasewicz outraised Kelly, and conservative groups outspent liberal ones. Kelly was backed by prominent election deniers and funders of the insurrection, who wanted to see a MAGA takeover of one of the nation's most important state courts. In an angry election night speech, Kelly, while acknowledging his loss, called Protasewicz a serial liar and said, quote, "I do not have a worthy opponent to which I can concede," end quote. Since Republicans took over the legislature and governor's mansion in 2011, the Wisconsin Supreme Court has been a key driver of GOP efforts to make their majorities voter-proof and turn the state into what Ben Wickler, chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party, calls a, quote, democracy-free zone, end quote. But Wickler predicted that Protasewicz's election, which was driven by voter disgust with the state's abortion ban and gerrymandered maps, would lead to a, quote, new era of democracy in the United States, restoring checks and balances and majority rule. Protasewicz told the Associated Press that her victory was, quote, really about saving our democracy, getting away from extremism, end quote. Protasewicz's impact on the court could be felt quickly. She ran an outspoken race for a judicial candidate, criticizing the rigged maps and saying she believes that, quote, women have the right to choose. A challenge to the abortion ban is making its way through state court, and progressive groups have vowed to challenge the redistricting maps, which give Republicans a near supermajority in the legislature, despite Democrats having won 14 of the past 17 statewide elections after the new judges seated on August 1st. Still, Republicans will likely do everything they can to maintain their dominance in this legislature and have already floated the idea of impeaching this new Supreme Court Justice, Protasewicz, which could trigger a constitutional crisis in the state of Wisconsin. A new era for the court is beginning, but the fight over democracy in Wisconsin, with huge implications nationwide, is far from over. And that, I love that. That is, let's see, that's Mother Jones, and I definitely will post it in right now, so you guys can get that as well. Wow, just. She won by 10 percentage points. Like, it wasn't even like by the hair of her teeth. No, she stomped you. Yes, he was like, I can't concede because she's not worthy and blah 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 blah. But if people of Wisconsin choose her, I will respect their decision. No, you just disrespected their decision. It's like, I love you, but ass hat.
Gotta love it.
Yes, okay, let's see. Shared, boom, boom. All right, and I will go to. So, is there any questions or anything while I pull that up? No?
No, I'm excited for the.
Yeah. It is going to be good. Let's see. And.
Got a couple good ones tonight. Got some good news.
Yes.
It's the good news.
Yes. Come on now. Sheesh. I want to get it out of here so it's not in my way. Okay. And we got the next story. We got Wisconsin, and we're going to do Chicago. Now, I'm from Illinois. I haven't, lived there since I was underage. However, it will always have a place in my heart, just always. I have lots of family in Illinois and Iowa. So I followed this race. It was the last person, the last mayor, what was her name? Lightfoot. She just Lori Lightfoot, yeah. She would say something and get people, whatever group it was that cared about that, excited, and make this group mad because they didn't care about it, and then not do what she said. So it made the group that was happy mad, and the group that wasn't happy is still mad. Like nobody was getting better. Like nothing was getting better. She ran on not defunding the police, but reallocating, getting peace officers and more mentally ill specialists who can also go along, who, if it is a call for someone who is experiencing a mental health crisis, they can send these specialists instead of a gun, that kind of thing. And then she got in and ended up giving them like almost $100 million to the police. Like, yeah.
Opposite of defund.
Yeah, she didn't know what she did the opposite of everything she said and did things she never talked about and never did. Yeah, she was awful. So it's hard work. I'm not saying I could do any better, but I'm not putting myself in that position.
Excuse me, you could do better than that.
Yeah, well, we would have mandatory dance hour. How about that? Like,
that's still better.
Yeah,
a lot better.
Yes. What is it? When the president can just sign some executive order. Yeah, executive order dance hour. Okay, let's see.
First day. It makes everyone who liked Footloose unhappy. Who liked the community.
Yes. All right. So there are Chicago election results next. Okay. Brandon Johnson, a county commissioner and former teachers union organizer, was elected mayor of Chicago this past Tuesday. Yeah, messed my eyes up there. Johnson takes office next month, facing challenges to bring together a city divided by race and a view on how best to quell persistent crime, a subject that loomed over the months-long campaign and set him apart from moderate rival Paul Vallis, who has called for swelling the streets of Chicago with police. With all but a handful of precincts reporting, but a sizable number of mail ballots left to count, Johnson led Vallis 51% to 49%. Today, quote, "Today we celebrate the revival and the resurrection of the city of Chicago," Johnson told supporters in his victory speech Tuesday night at the hotel on the city's near South Side. "It is time for Chicago to come alive, Chicago," end quote. Johnson's victory signals a shift to the left from the already progressive governance of Mayor Lori Lightfoot's administration. She is not progressive. I hate that is put in there because you can say you're whatever you want, but if your actions and your policies do not back that up, then you're not those things. Like the CCP, the Communist Party of China. What? No, that's not how that works. And the Democratic Peoples of North Korea, like, no, that's whatever. Anyway, so she is not progressive, Lori Lightfoot. But anyway, Lightfoot was ousted in the first round of the election, finishing third in a field of 9 candidates. Vallis, the only white candidate, came in first in the February 28th election, receiving 33% of the vote, followed by Johnson, who is Black, at 22%, and Lightfoot, who is current incumbent, 17%. Coming out of the first round of voting ahead, Vallis led most of the polling before the runoff, but Johnson closed in fast. Vallis conceded defeat, but added in a speech to supporters, quote, "It's clear based on the results tonight that the city is deeply divided," end quote. The outcome of the Chicago's mayor's race has been closely watched as Democrats across the country, right here, this one, tried to grapple with messaging over crime. 2 years ago in New York, Eric Adams won his party's nomination and later the general election, running to the right of his fellow Democrats on criminal justice issues. Johnson, who is 47, has already steered his campaign to the Democratic middle after the first round of campaign in which he built a progressive base supported by the city's Democratic Socialist City Council members. Early in the campaign, videos emerged of a 2020 interview in which Johnson described defunding the police as an actual, real political goal. The comments followed him throughout the campaign. He initially pivoted from answering to them and later said he would not defund the police if he were elected, but would fund a more holistic approach to public safety. His campaign hammered on Vallis, who voters have long known as a Democrat, but who in recent years has aligned himself with conservatives. In this year's mayoral contest, Vallis latched onto voters' concerns about crime. The message resonated even though violent crime numbers are on the decline. Lori Lightfoot acknowledged that it has been difficult to change perceptions, and Vallis exploited that with stark ads addressing violence under her watch. Johnson and Vallis also were embraced by powerful unions, which helped fuel their bases, but also raised concerns among moderate Democrats about how they would lead. Vallis was endorsed by the Chicago Fraternal Order of the Police, and Johnson was backed by the Chicago's teachers unions, for which he also worked, and the CTU, the Chicago Teachers Union, also funded Johnson's campaign, donating more than $2.5 million to the effort of making him the next mayor. Quote, "Make no mistake about it, Chicago is a union town," Johnson said in his victory speech Tuesday night. "Tonight, Chicago chose hope over fear," added Stacey David Gates, the president of the Chicago's Teachers Union. "I ain't never seen a city silence a dog whistle." Johnson will take office facing a city council that's already more independent than the one Lightfoot has worked with for the last 4 years. This is going to be interesting for Chicago. In recent weeks, the city council has pushed ahead with an effort to name its own committee chairs. It's a task that the new mayor has always had control of, in part to reward loyal council members who can help carry the mayor's legislative efforts. But before he is sworn in next month and confronts the reality of governing, Johnson is already seeking to take his message national. Quote, "Let's take this bold progressive movement around these United States of America," he said in his victory speech. "Chicago, we can show the country, we can show the world what's possible when we stand on our values as one people." Yes, more victories, more justice, more great outcomes of people who put in the work and actually have the message that's demonstrable to back up. Yes.
Woo.
And then let me share this one with the people. With her. Oh, that's the alarm clock. I don't know what I'm doing. I've done this before. There we go. Shared. Hike up. All right, and then just moving on through the last one is
Offset. Who's policing the police?
See, it's going to be Tennessee. We're going from Wisconsin to Chicago to Tennessee. Yes.
Hold on. Can we do a mid topic real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Let's go ahead and try and answer the question: who's policing the police? Because it should be the police.
Who's what?
Who's policing the police?
Who's police? Yeah, right.
What's your do you have a good understanding of how we do that? Because I know that, like, there's different figures of
most departments investigate themselves.
Yeah. Okay. So how would you fix it?
Independent, more oversight, more transparency. There wouldn't be a police department that is allowed to not have body cams. This whole thing where they just were refusing to do it in certain areas. I'm sorry, you're not the boss. You work for the people, and the people have said you have to do this. If you don't want to, don't do this job.
Yeah.
What are you hiding? I have a mouthful of nerds.
Nerds are the best. Would you have as many agencies? Would you have a hierarchy?
I mean, just to change everything right away is never going to work. Lori Lightfoot is the example of having all these changes and not knowing. I think bringing in organizations, non-governmental organizations, that their job is to investigate these kind of institutions and departments.
We have that
Whether
in
it
the art.
takes 2 to 3 years per, I don't care, but doing it honestly. And then, you know, just like how a bank goes under stress test and they're like, we need to fix this and do this and do this so that you're strong. Well, then we can then look at it and say, we can do this to better this. We need more education here. We need better training here. We need body cams for everyone. We need more mental health professionals in the protect and serve departments of each county, obviously. You know, bringing a gun to every predicament, no matter what it is not the right. You know, if you only have a hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that we should. This is my fun idea. Okay.
I'm scared.
I don't have a lot of backing for it, but it sounds fun. Is you should be able to conduct citizens arrests to police officers. Like Derek Chauvin, like, all right, sir, you gotta step back. We have five citizens right here who are placing you under arrest. We're gonna wait for a different police department to come out and help us.
Yes.
I think something like that would be neat. Like you know,
Yeah.
maybe if there was like a numbers rule, like, you know, like 5 citizens can like all agree to arrest a police officer during bad conduct. I don't know,
Yeah.
something like that. I feel like that would be a good checks and balance kind of thing. Like, yeah, all right, well, looks like you crossed the line, so I don't know. It's a fun one. All right, we can move on.
No, I got it. Yes, they need to be held more accountable. And they shouldn't be above, you know, when something goes down, to shut down and not let any, you know, we're not taking questions, no comments, and they're on administrative leave with pay, and, you know, it can't be like shutting the people out. You wouldn't have a job without the people, and you're not us and them, and they have that mentality because the training. So the training is where I would do different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say you have to at least have some college, at least, in order to be carrying a gun around in charge of killing or not killing citizens.
Get a license to drive a car. Well, this is something I've thought about for. I probably should have led with this. Is you mentioned oversight, and I agree with that. I think that's the biggest thing. I think for our armed forces and for our domestic forces, you know, police, so on and so forth, anything in between. I think that government agencies shouldn't be allowed to keep secrets from US citizens, even if they're U.S. secrets that are like
national security.
National security. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. I agree with keeping them safe.
Yeah, and I think we have like a 20-year law or something like that. Like they're supposed to be like
right.
Unclassified after so long. I would like to see it in most cases 6 months.
Yeah. No, I think we got to keep people safe. We got to keep people and institutions and some secrets safe. There are some things that just can never go to the population, and not because they're hiding or because it would make them look bad. It's like logistics of who's where, why, and who they are, what their code names are, and like, yeah.
Right, see, that stuff I do get, but I mean, most of it.
The 20 years, I'm okay with the 20 years. However, they need to follow it. in 20 years, whoever petitions for freedom of information should have no issues because the time has elapsed. Those people aren't in power anymore. It's time. It's time to open it up, and no matter what's in it, is in
it. Sorry. No, I agree. No, I mean, I agree with keeping our people safe, like legitimately keeping our American citizens and our people safe. But that's used as an excuse so often. Like, well, we're just trying to keep people safe. Like, I forget what it's called, but like the double tap video. Like, come back around and shoot for 3 minutes, like that kind of stuff. I'm like, I feel like that kind of thing should have like a 6 month to 2 year time span where that's confidential, and then there's nothing you can do.
I would be okay with 10 years, stuff like that. I'd be okay with 10 years, but 2 years, I mean, a lot of military officials in that video are doing 4 to 8 year, and like.
Well, yeah, but I don't care.
Yeah, I know you do.
If they're still in there, I don't want. See, the issue with me is that I think if you're going to hold someone accountable, it can't be 5, 10, 20 years after. Like, it should be relatively soon. I mean, like, you're supposed to have a right to a speedy and fair trial. That ain't speedy if the government's hiding your crimes.
Ask Snowden if he thinks he's going to get a speedy trial. That would be honest and
maybe speedy, not fair. But yeah,
I worry about him, you guys. I think about Snowden often with what's going on right now, and being in, like, he can't say anything. Like, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, and at the same time, you could just disappear, bro. You're not important.
Yeah. No.
Oh yeah, I know that's off topic, but I think about him often. That's got to be terrifying, and he's smart, so he's not like ignorant to what's happening. There's that.
He's not. So I don't know. I just I saw Jeff's question. That deserves an answer. I mean, maybe we didn't tell you how it is, but hopefully we can give a couple ideas of maybe how it should be. So, all right, we can move on. This is our final topic.
It is. Moving on along to Tennessee. Goodness.
Thank you, Tom.
Someone's smoking marijuana in here. Horrible.
Marijuana?
Yeah. Devil's lettuce. Devil's lettuce. You have salad every day. GOP. That's right. Let me get a step anyway. Wet my whistle. I wish I could whistle. Ugh. Sometimes one of my hairs gets wrapped around here and it will literally, like, it's torture. It's like tickles me and I can't find it. All right, in Tennessee, and this is from the Tennessean. If you guys do not subscribe to the Tennessean, you really should. It's super progressive and it's from the locals there and it's amazing. So you'll learn something else about me. And Smitty knows, Brant knows, Mac knows, but I like to read papers from all different places. So GOP expels Democratic reps Justin Jones, Justin Pearson from House over gun control protest. The House failed by 1 vote to achieve the 2/3 majority needed to expel Representative Gloria Johnson, Democrat from Knoxville, from the chamber. Together, the lawmakers had become known as the Tennessee Three. 10 days after a shooter unloaded 152 rounds inside a Nashville school and killed 6 human beings, Tennessee House Republicans on Thursday expelled 2 Democratic lawmakers for breaking House decorum, aka House rules, and mounting a gun reform protest on the chamber floor. However, they did do that, but it was during recess, not bothering anybody, and they cut their mic. So they couldn't even talk to anyone. So they used a megaphone. That's what they got in trouble for. Like, yeah. After hours of fiery debate, the House expelled Representatives Justin Jones of Nashville on a 72-25 vote, and Representative Justin Pearson, Democrat from Memphis, on a 69-26, in a move that put the nation's eyes on Tennessee. We watching you, Tennessee. We're watching you. I'm watching you. But the House failed by one vote to achieve the 2/3 majority needed to kick Representative Glory Johnson from Knoxville, Democrat, out of the chamber. The effort to expel Johnson failed on a 65-30 vote as chants of Gloria, Gloria rang out in the House chamber. Republicans moved 2 of the youngest Black lawmakers from the General Assembly, further reducing an already very small minority caucus. Still, the expulsions have elevated the 2 lawmakers' political profiles with long-term gains for Republican leadership, as Pearson and Jones could be reappointed to their seats within days or weeks. And you just made them fucking viral. Like, if you didn't want them to be in the future an MLK or in the future this type of, leader, you did the wrong thing, because now they are. So I'm not comparing these young men to what MLK achieved in his very short time here. However, at their age, yeah, they can do amazing things if they want to. I see it, I feel it, when I hear them, when I know what they fought for. They're civil, and they were organizing and doing volunteer work for as their life before they became elected officials. So yes, these are amazing people that scare the shit out of these old white wealthy men. The historic partisan expulsion process has roiled political tensions as the state continues to grapple with the deadliest school shooting in its history. Quote, "What is happening here today is a farce of democracy," Jones said at the beginning of his 20-minute defense. "What is happening here today is a situation in which the jury has already publicly announced the verdict. What we see today is just a spectacle. What we see today is a lynch mob assembled to not lynch me, but our democratic process." Lawmakers considered the fate of the 3 Democrats steps away from the hundreds and hundreds of protesters, thousands actually, whose chants permeated the House doors while more than 200 people stood in silence in the House galleries. Protesters continued to call on Republican lawmakers to pass gun reform and slammed the efforts to expel the lawmakers, who have been dubbed the Tennessee Three. The expulsion proceedings threatened to strip more than 200,000 Tennesseans of their elected representation and mark just the 4th time since the end of the Civil War in which the House ousted sitting lawmakers. No House member has ever been removed from elected office for simply violating decorum rules. Republicans insisted expulsion. The most extreme sanction available was the only and the right move to protect the integrity of the House and its rules. Quote, "This is just not about one specific instance or specific rule that may have been broken. The rules here are for order," said Representative Johnny Garrett, Republican, Goodlettsville, who led the GOP arguments against Jones. "We owe that to the constituents that we represent across the state." Jones took several pointed pauses while sipping water during his floor speeches, allowing the chants of "Whose house? Our house" to flow into the chamber from the crowd gathering outside. "Your extreme measure is an attempt to subvert the will of voters who democratically elected us as representatives to speak and to passionately fight for them," Jones said. The expulsion for the 2 were effective immediately. Before the House voted on Johnson's fate, House Democratic Caucus Chairman John Ray Clemens, Democrat from Nashville, argued there was not enough evidence to uphold the allegations in Johnson's expulsion resolution. Two attorneys, both former House members themselves, also argued on Johnson's behalf, saying that while Johnson stood in support of her two freshman colleagues, the two Justins, she did not lead the chants with a bullhorn. Really? Wow. Quote, I have to raise the voices of people in my district, and I did what I felt those folks wanted me to do, Johnson said in her defense. 7 Republicans broke with their party to vote against Johnson's expulsion. Representative Jody Barrett, Charlie Baum, Rush Bricken, Brian Ritchie, Lowell Russell, Mark Sparks, and Sam Whitson decided to vote against kicking her out. Gasps ran out as the vote count was announced before Johnson and Pearson drew each other into an emotional hug. Following the vote, Johnson said she couldn't feel good about her survival due to the expulsion of her two colleagues. Johnson, a white woman, believed Pearson and Jones were treated differently due to their race. When asked on live TV right after this happened why she thought that she was saved and they were expelled, she said, well, it might have to do with the color of their skin. They showed today how brilliant they are, she said, how important their message is for the next generation to be able to connect like they can to the people, Johnson said. It's critical. We need people in the House who can do that. And these two, they are just brilliant at it. After Pearson was expelled in the final vote of the night, the chamber exploded into a cacophony of yells and chants, drowning out the ceremonial reading of his expulsion result. 2 protesters unfurled a handmade banner reading, quote, "Rule Tennessee against fascist GOP," end quote, which was ripped down by staff members immediately. Rather than empty the galleries of screaming protesters, House leadership adjourned and lawmakers streamed out after the 7-hour session. March 30th. On March 30th, Pearson and Jones, both freshman lawmakers who had previously clashed with leadership on other issues this session, walked up to the House podium during a floor session and began leading gun reform chants, echoing the shouts of the protesters packed into the Capitol rotunda. The pair, later flanked by Johnson, the one who didn't get expelled, grew frustrated as House leadership moved on to regular business just days after mass shooting, business as usual. After relieving the lawmakers of committee assignments, because they did this, and shutting off their building access cards that everyone carries over the weekend, the Republican supermajority moved swiftly Monday morning to start the expulsion process. Among the first legislative actions taken by the General Assembly related to the March 27th mass shooting that killed 6, including 3 precious 9-year-olds. Sarah Newman, the mom of a 5-year-old who attends the Covenant school that the shooting happened at, watched the expulsion hearings from the House gallery, silent. Pearson at one point went upstairs to give her a hug. Quote, I just want Noah to know I did something for him, she says of her 5-year-old who survived the shooting. She said, noting she wanted to come to the Capitol to honor the Covenant victims, Catherine Cooch, Mike Hill, Cynthia Peake, Evelyn Dicas, Holly Scruggs, and William Kinney. And she thinks of the shooter's family as well. Thousands of Tennesseans have marched en masse on the state capitol 3 times in the last 10 days, you guys, since the tragedy, demanding gun reform measures. The ruling party is hesitant, if not outright opposed to publicly support. So I hate that they put it like that. The ruling party is hesitant. No, they're not even going to hear it. They'll kick people out that want to talk about it. So I understand whoever, edited this or whatever, and the Tennessean is normally like, mwah. So I grain of salt. But Pearson later said he could not sit idly by after lawmakers that day walked through a gauntlet of protesters, many of whom were just teenagers and children who were screaming for gun reform for their safety. House Speaker Cameron Sexton, Republican from Crossville, likened the events of that protest to an insurrection, even comparing the March 30 peaceful protest that resulted in 0 arrests to the January 6, 2021 riots at the U.S. Capitol. Though he later walked back the comment, saying his remarks were directed at the 3 lawmakers and not protesters. That doesn't even make sense. Lawmakers weren't a part of January 6th. Like, dude. Sexton this week said he considered the unprecedented floor protest as an act against civil authority. Oh, with your civil authority. How about that? What they did was try to hold up the people's business on the House floor instead of doing it the way that they should have done it. So, like, get out of here. Which they have the means to do, Sexton said. They actually thought that they would be arrested, so they decided that them being a victim was more important than focusing on the 6 victims from Monday, and that's appalling. Fuck off, asshole. In the expulsion hearing on Thursday, Representative Andrew Farmer, Republican of Saberville, blamed Pearson of throwing a temper tantrum with an adolescent bullhorn. Like, are there adult bullhorns? Like, what is happening right now? Do you get a BB bullhorn? No,
That's actually a kazoo.
Quote, that yearning for attention, that's what you wanted, said Farmer to Justin, who had spearheaded Pearson's expulsion motion that morning. Well, you're getting it now, he finished with. Pearson called Farmer's comments belittling to the issue at hand. He called a peaceful protest a temper tantrum, Pearson said. Is that what is happening outside these doors by Tennesseans who want to see change? A temper tantrum? Sarah, whose son was at the Covenant School, showing up here and demanding we do something about gun violence. Is that a temper tantrum? Is elevating our voices for justice and change a temper tantrum? GOP wields supermajority power in Tennessee, you guys. The Thursday vote was widely viewed as a certainty as soon as the Republican caucus voted to file expulsion resolutions. For some, the partisan expulsions are a stark reminder of the supermajority power Republicans have amassed over the state's Democratic urban areas. Quote, I'm devastated. I am, said protester Ashley Anderson, rain dripping off her hood as she stood in line to enter the Capitol. There's so many emotions that go into how I feel about this. It's really hard to put words to it. It's fascist. It's undemocratic. You're leaving 200,000 Tennessean constituents of this state of Tennessee without, she's emotional, without any representation. What is this? This is our freedom at stake. Jones's removal marks the 3rd major circumvention of Nashville voters in the last year, after an aggressive congressional redistricting effort in 2022 split Davison County and parceled its majority Democratic voter base into Republican-held districts. More recently, infuriated after the Nashville Council blocked a bid to host the Republican National Convention, lawmakers drew up multiple bills to shrink the Metro Council and snatch back control of governing boards, such as the local airport and sports authorities. In General Assembly history, a partisan expulsion vote like Thursday's is unusual, and an expulsion push over a decorum breach is unprecedented, never heard of. Emotions ran high on Thursday morning after Jones opposed a school safety bill presented by Republicans, arguing it would further militarize schools while not addressing gun reform issues at all. Other Democrats said they were concerned the bill treats the symptoms of school shootings, not the problem. That's what is supposed to happen on this House floor when we debate legislation. We hear each other. We don't hear the hate. We don't hear the vitriol. It worked today. It can work for the future, Garrett said. 1 week ago, it didn't work. 1 week ago, we had members take it upon themselves to rush the well and stop the people's business. Oh, that's called a protest, and you were not harmed. You're fine. Garrett said the protest, by shutting down the work of the House, silenced 7 million Tennesseans. Protesters in the gallery shook their heads as he spoke. House Minority Leader Karen Camper, Democrat from Memphis, defended her colleagues, quote, Representative Jones represents thousands of people in the state whose voices have been silenced time and time and time again. We had just had this mass shooting, and he only wanted to elevate the voices of those people. For a simple rule violation, we have elevated this to the highest level of admonishment, and that is not democracy. I'm going to talk just a little bit about this is important, and it gives you a little bit of context. The House last expelled a sitting lawmaker in 2016 when the chamber voted 70-2 to remove then Representative Jeremy Durbin, Republican of Franklin, Tennessee, over allegations he had harassed nearly 24 women while in office. In 1980, then Republican Robert Fisher was expelled on a 92-1 vote after a bribery conviction. 6 lawmakers were ousted during an 1866 special session after they tried to prevent Tennessee from ratifying an amendment to the U.S. Constitution to provide citizenship to former slaves. The Senate expelled a member for the first time last year following the conviction of Senator Katrina Robinson, a Democrat from Memphis, on federal wire fraud charges. So an ethics committee was convened to investigate Robinson's case before it was brought to a vote, which Bruce Oppenheimer, a professor of political science at Vanderbilt University, said is typical procedure. Special committees took up the Durham and Fisher cases. Quote, normally expulsion from a legislature is an extreme sanction that involves indictment and conviction of a crime or a severe ethical violation, Oppenheimer said. Even when an ethical violation is incurred, lesser penalties of a reprimand or censure would be assessed in most or all cases. Johnson this week decried the expulsion as a double standard and politically motivated. Of course it was. Last year, former House Speaker Glenn Casada, Republican of Franklin, faced federal charges related to alleged crimes committed while in office, was allowed to finish out his term, while current leadership in 2019 declined to support expulsion charges against him, who was accused of sexually assaulting teenagers when he was a basketball coach just decades early. They say accused. I'm sorry. There is video of him saying the words of all of these kids, and he was allowed to stay. I just, I can't. So we had the one of the guys, he says, we had a child molester on the floor for years. They helped him get reelected and did nothing to expel him, said Johnson, who filed a resolution to expel this child molester at the time. We've had members pee in each other's chairs. We've had members illegally prescribe drugs to their cousin mistresses, and nothing has happened but talk on the floor without permission and you'll get expelled. Compared with others who have been ousted from the legislature, Oppenheimer said the decorum violation seems modest, almost to the point of being trivial. Lawmakers have contentious history with these 3. So all 3 lawmakers have at times publicly clashed with the Republican supermajority prior to the Covenant school shooting. While Jones is a freshman lawmaker, he is no stranger to the Capitol and led public protests against the same lawmakers who later became his colleagues. In 2019, he led sit-ins to call for the removal of the bust of a Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest from the Capitol, and was once arrested for tossing liquid at a former House Speaker. Johnson was first elected to her Knoxville district in 2012 after retiring from teaching. That's talking about her. She wants to go in about the redistricting. Pearson joined the legislature via appointment following the death of Representative Barbara Cooper last fall. Like Jones, the 28-year-old rose through local advocacy circles, co-founding a grassroots organization now credited with stopping a proposed crude oil pipeline from cutting through South Memphis backyards. These are badass people. The House Republicans publicly scolded Pearson after he wore a traditional West African dashiki on the House floor on his first day in office, which Pearson reminded his colleagues of on Thursday night. Despite the high-profile expulsions, the 3 could technically return to the House within days. The Tennessee Constitution allows a county governing body to appoint an interim representative in each case of vacancy. an authority general assembly Republicans could not easily revoke. An expulsion does not disqualify a former representative from running for office, which could mean one of the expelled lawmakers could be appointed interim, run for re-election, and be reseated in the General Assembly within months. It does go on, and I will share. That's pretty much like all the main things I wanted to give. There are other nuances, and you guys can definitely read that for yourself. But like the main things I needed to be on here for people who aren't going to go do anything, I wanted them to be in there. So this story has got me heated. When it happened, I remember I was watching something else. I was actually not even learning. It was just, it was entertaining. I was on Netflix, and it came across the
take a break.
yeah, it was, and I was like, what? He did what? No. So, all right, shared. Whew.
Thank you. I did open up that site.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for turning me on.
Goodness. My stomach is growling. I haven't had a chance to eat. So I was eating some candy. It's actually edible, so now I'm really hungry. It happens. You know.
Well, thank you everyone for joining this.
Heck yeah, I hope everyone feels a little bit more informed on those 4 topics we talked about tonight. Any questions or any comments, of course, leave them below, or message. Fan is blowing my hairs and they're attacking me. As I said to our Lord and Savior, that I feel like this could actually be used to torture me. It makes me really aggro when one hair is going like this, and I'm like, ah! But Nacho understood. He has beautiful hair, so he knows what that feels like. Feel it. Oh, see, not attached. How am I supposed to know? But I can't not have a fan. I'll die. So it just is what it is. What it is. Let's see. Did you go away? You did.
I didn't.
I know. I just can't see you. You went away for. Yeah. I guess I won't be able to pull you back up. So I don't know how.
That's okay. We'll take care of it.
It is. I could say, stay humanist for godless. I love you guys.